I am back as I promised. We'll talk a little football today. I'm at the Jaguars, outside the Jaguars Stadium where they're taking on Minnesota Vikings right now. They're located right at the corner of Duval, Haynes, and Gator on the east side. Right now, the Jaguars are holding a surprising 7-3 lead over the Vikings. Because of Mac Jones, or because of Jacksonville, bad of a football team who's actually put it together. Who's to say? But we're going to talk some football. And while I'm talking, I'm going to pan the crowd so you get an idea about what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, and you can look at some visuals instead of just looking at me. So I'm just going to pan and talk, and see if I can make some good valid points about the world of college football and the NFL. Like I say, right now with the Vikings, and they have us. I don't know. We'll find out later. We'll go online with Fango, and we have a report up for you about it. And we'll start breaking it down and showing you exactly what the fans are saying here in Jacksonville. But again, I'm going to turn it on, and I am going to start panning the area. For whatever reason, that's some people starting to leave. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the picture off and start talking a little bit. Again, I am on the corner of Duval, Haynes, and Gator Bowl, side of the stadium, right in front of Gate 3. And I'm just here walking and talking. Yesterday, I couldn't really get into what I wanted to talk about because I was in a bad area, and as I was in a bad area, the pictures are like that. So I didn't want to cut that up and put it out there, but I did a video that I felt like it was going to be some upsets in college football. And boy, was I in it. Let's talk this first. Georgia Bulldogs elimination game with Ole Miss today. And if Ole Miss somehow beat Georgia, we'll get lucky enough to a tie or some 2 losses. And with Georgia, well, they were able to beat. The Bulldogs have 2 losses, and they still have 2 losses. And that is Florida, who is they got blown out yesterday, and Mississippi State. They're struggling a little bit themselves. They get in there and scrap with you, but they just don't have enough firepower right now to win. So Ole Miss seems to have a clear path to the point where they only have 2 losses through to the end of the season. Now, the flip side of that, Tennessee 1 loss. They have to play Georgia next week. And you just got to know you're going to be picked off. They know that if they beat Tennessee, they'll bring Tennessee down to 2 losses, and that'll even further jumble up the race in the SEC. Now, the competition was going and everybody was knocking each other off. We're going to have teams in the SEC game with 2 losses, and it's starting to shape up to be that way. Why no ointment? You got Texas A&M and Texas. Texas, I don't have any more heavyweight SEC games left. A&M has Auburn. If they can somehow get by Auburn into the final game against Texas in the station, they got a real good chance to knock off the Longhorns. But you know, those 2 teams, they don't like each other much. And the Aggies would like nothing but than to ruin the long season, or at least make it more difficult. I'd like to know what the time you see when you got so many teams that are going to have 2 losses. Because I think that's what's going to happen. I think that Georgia, they're going to be ticked off. See team down. And that quarterback, he's kind of when you put a little pressure on him. And like the quarterback, again, that no quarterback can throw back. Out of all these years I've been around, I never met a quarterback who can throw on his back. And I reference when you had Eric Zier playing against Ole Miss, Billy Brewer blitzed him. Solid 52, but always split Eric Zier half to death, and they couldn't So I felt like Lane Kiffin would do something similar today to Carson Beck. Because Beck, if you put a little pressure on a struggling quarterback, he's going to make more mistakes. And that's exactly what happened. He actually beat the Bulldogs by 3 scores. But I thought that Ole Miss, the way they've been on those games, I thought that if it got in their face, it would be Georgia that would pull away from them. But it was the other way around. But you got to understand, work out. Georgia's on the good side of all that stuff lately, and it was about time. So now they need a little help. They're going to have to beat Tennessee. If they don't beat Tennessee, Georgia will not make the playoffs. Tennessee will probably get into the playoffs because all they will have left to get by is Kentucky. And I don't think they have much problem getting by Kentucky. But A&M, the flying ointment, can they beat Auburn? Can they beat Texas? To really cause a logjam in the SEC. It's going to be interesting the last 3 weeks of the season. Can't wait to see it. Now, that's just the SEC. The other big conference, the Big Ten. Today you had a historical of sorts. You had Indiana taking on Michigan. Michigan, you know, the traditional power in the Big Ten. They eat teams like Indiana for breakfast in that conference. And even when Indiana had good teams or had a lead on Michigan in the final minute, they found a way to blow it. If you go back to the 80s, Anthony Carter beat him on the last play touchdown. That Lee Corso did a selection show. He was a coach then, and he beat him on the last play. And that's the kind of luck that Indiana tends to have when they play against teams like Ohio State and Michigan. But not yesterday. However, the way Indiana's been scoring a lot of points, you thought that they would run off Michigan, but Michigan actually played pretty good defense. They don't have a bad defense. Michigan's problem is youth, and they don't really have a quarterback. And if you can make the game ugly and get to a good quarterback like what Indiana has, then you put yourself in a good position. And that's what Michigan did. They still don't have enough offensive firepower to pull off an upset, but they made it interesting. So now, Indiana's got a week off next week, and then they get Ohio State. Like I told you guys before, if Indiana can get by Michigan and Michigan State, which they did, they will have that extra week to get ready for Ohio State. And it favors Indiana because Ohio State, the next week, is going to have to get it on with Michigan. That's the game that they care about. I don't care about the national championship, the Big Ten championship. Their whole season is predicated on beating Michigan. Don't make a whole lot of sense, but if you hate somebody that much, then so be it. And I think because Ohio State has that Michigan game lurking and all the pressure that mounts with it, Indiana stands a great chance to knock off Ohio State in 2 weeks. And that sets the stage for Ohio State, not Ohio State, but Indiana taking on Oregon for the Big Ten championship. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So not only do you have Texas A&M with the opportunity to get in the championship, you got Indiana. These are two teams that nobody expected to be anywhere close to a championship level. But here we are. That's why I used to talk about all the time that the college football, they were all these conferences were set up the same. You had 2 or 3 teams at the top, 2 or 3 teams at the bottom, then everybody else in the middle. Everybody thought it's always the same cast of characters, but they never really had to play anybody. Take Oklahoma. I use them as a reference. They lost to Texas again, right? Okay. Normally they cruise all the way through the Big 12 season, and they will go get a break here, end up playing Texas again in the conference championship. You can't cruise like that anymore. You have to take care of business every week. And with these super conferences, you're not playing everybody that you normally used to playing. You know, all these SEC rivalries that they have, you pretty much who you're going to play every year. And I can look midway through the season once, say Georgia gets by a Auburn or something, you know who's going to pretty much be in those championship games. But now everything's up in the air, and I think that's great for the sport. Now, the Big 12, the other conference, I don't think they're as good as the Big 10 or the SEC, but they got some good football teams in the Big 12. And surprise, surprise, Colorado, the team everybody liked to crush, is now 7-2 and in second place in the Big 12. They actually control their destiny to get through to the championship game. BYU is the top seed right now. They're undefeated. But they had a lot of fortune last night to get by Utah. Utah made a play down the field on 4th and 10. The referees called pass interference or something like that to give them a first down. They end up driving down and kicking a 44-yard field goal at the end of the game to win. Utah's athletic director is hopping mad about it, and he's letting everybody know that the officials, they were unprofessional and pretty much took the game from them, being that the game was played in Provo. Is he right? I don't know. You see all that kind of stuff about high school teams getting cheated, and until I saw it myself, I didn't believe it. But I've seen teams get cheated royally in high school football. And it all depends on, who you're playing against and where you're playing. It determines who wins a lot of these state championships. I can go back in history and give you several examples. I'm not going to do that right now. That's for another show later on this week, because the high school football playoffs actually start next week in Florida. They were supposed to start this week, but due to the hurricanes, they actually pushed the season back a week so that everybody can get those make-up games in. And the actual playoffs will start this Friday. But BYU is being accused of cheating against Utah. Whatever the case, they're still undefeated in the Big 12, followed directly by Colorado. Now, Colorado, even though they control their own destiny, they don't have an easy road. They got Utah next week. So just like Georgia's going to be hopping mad when they play Tennessee, you can best bet Utah is going to be very upset when they go to Colorado next week. And if they can get by Utah, they have Kansas, and they're going to close the season with Oklahoma State. Now, Kansas knocked off, who was that? They knocked off Iowa State yesterday. Kansas is a dangerous team. So is Oklahoma State. Because despite the criticism that Van Gundy is getting, I think he's a pretty good coach. And he's going to put together a good game plan that when they go play Colorado, there will be a serious threat to win that game. So Deion's got his work cut out, but whatever he does, perhaps maybe he should be considered for Coach of the Year candidate, because he's done a good job, and all of a sudden he started playing some really good football. And they're in position right now to make it to the Big 12 championship game. At worst, they might get a chance to get into the playoffs. But we'll see about that. It all depends on how the SEC and the Big Ten shake out. But you know that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get the lion's share of the teams in the playoffs. So we're going to see how that works out. But this is Sports for Real. I'm outside the stadium, directly across the stadium from Jacksonville, Everbank Stadium, and they'll take it on the Vikings. And the Jaguars just happen to have a 7-3 lead. And this game is actually moving pretty rapidly. It slowed down a little bit at the end of the first half with all those timeouts and different things going on. But the game is moving pretty rapidly, which makes me believe that Jacksonville is running the football. When you are a bad team, you need to run the football and control the clock. Keep that clock running, shorten the game, make a few completions here and there, and you got a chance to win the game. Now I'm hearing the crowd, they're cheering about something. Jaguars just got an interception. Now, even though the Vikings are 7-2, they still got Sam Darnold as a quarterback. He's capable of falling apart at any time. Up to this point, he's played really well for the Vikings. He's probably the reason why they're in the position that they are. Whether they win or lose this game, the Vikings are still in good shape, because this is not a conference game. This is a tiebreaker way down the line. Their biggest thing is head-to-head. They're going to have to beat the Lions, and they're going to have to beat those Packers, man. And even the Bears are coming on. So the idea is to come down here and try to get a win. Or if you can't get a win, come out of this thing healthy. That'll be ideal for the Vikings. But the Jaguars, the storyline behind them is a quarterback situation. Trevor Lawrence is not playing today. Matter of fact, he may have a season-ending injury. At least that's according to his wife. She put out a post saying that she's fearing that the season might be over for Lawrence. But the fans, a lot of them I've been talking to over the last couple of weeks, they can be no more excited than they are now, because they've been calling for Jones to come in all along because Lawrence, he hasn't been playing that well. So now they get their wish. Jones is playing, and he's gotten them in the game. Although Lawrence, he still had him in the game, but it don't seem like to me that Jones is making a whole lot of mistakes. Because you make a lot of mistakes against the Vikings, you're going to get run off. They're just that good, especially when things start to go their way. So it'll be interesting to see what the fans have to say when I talk to them today. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I do this thing called I work with Fango Media, and I'm the representative here in Jacksonville. So after the game is over with, I talk to the fans to get their assessment of what they think about their team at that particular moment. And a lot of them have a lot of things to say about the quarterback, and a lot of it hasn't been good. So they've been calling for Jones to play. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say about this particular game. Now the game is still in doubt. Probably midway through the third quarter now. Like I said, it's a rapidly moving game. The Vikings just threw an interception, and the Jaguars need to keep this game short and keep running that clock for them to have a chance to win it. But if they start to make mistakes, then they're going to end up losing again. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is when you make a lot of mistakes. So that's where I am right now. I'm outside Everbank Stadium. As you can see, it's kind of easy to get around here. It's not as populous as it normally is. Matter of fact, if you had been down here last week with the Florida Georgia, you could hardly move. Even though it's halftime, there's still a lot of people milling around outside the stadium. And over to where I'm pointing now, you see the top of that bridge over there, over to the left of the bridge, right down on the other side below this ramp here. That's RV City, probably about maybe 300 yards from here. And that's where a lot of people will, like to go park their RVs, and they throw their parties, and RV City usually opens up around a week before the game starts. Well, not a week, but probably about 5 days. This year they opened it on Tuesday. Normally it's a Wednesday. And from that moment on, all the way to Sunday morning, there's a big party around here. And you can hardly get around, especially after the game. Traffic gets choked, and But I did notice they made some changes along the streets this year. So you can move around the stadium, but over on the other side of the Arlington Expressway, which is over there, you can't really see it from here. There used to be a whole lot of people tailgating on that side, but it looks like they run those people off. And I found that a little strange. But they have to control the traffic. And next year will be the last year for a couple years with the Florida Georgia game, because they're going to be remodeling this stadium. They got a package to remodel, rebuild this stadium at a price of $1.4 billion. $1.4 billion. Same as what the Bills Stadium is being built for right now. New York and the city of Buffalo covering $900 million of that, with the NFL and other avenues picking up the rest of the tab. Jacksonville got off a little less than that, but the city is still paying a hefty price for that. But once they finish all of that, and they have that Lot J project over there, where they're going to put those shops and apartments and different things, this is going to be really nice in a couple years when they get all this done. And the big thing about it is, if they hadn't got that stadium deal approved, then I think that where they've been playing in England, Tottenham Stadium, that was going to be the new home of the Jaguars if they hadn't got a stadium deal done. So lucky for the city of Jacksonville that it was done, because what a lot of people don't know, there are hidden economies around these games. You have rideshare drivers who bring people down here. You got these people riding on those bikes who carry people to and from the stadium. You got the vendors. Then you have those people over there in the colored shirts. Those are the security crew. They do ticket taking and security on the field and all different kind of things. They work the concessions. Hidden economy here. A lot of money being exchanged hands during these games. And even though it's only 10 home games a year, you got 8 regular season games generally and 2 preseason. That's a lot of money for some people to make. I talked to some of those cart drivers over there, and they can make $1,000 on a given night, especially if you have the concert Because on the other side of the stadium over there, you have Veterans Vistar Arena, where they have concerts. And then back on the south end of the stadium here, you have that Daly's Plaza where they have concerts. So a lot of money being exchanged hands down here. And really, it's the only game in town. There's a minor league baseball team, but there's no professional no major league team. You don't have the NBA here or any basketball at all. So really, this is the only game in town. That's one of the reasons why they didn't want to let that Florida-Georgia game get out of town, because they don't really have anything right now to replace it with. But I do know that that's probably going to change a little bit, because once they get that stadium done, what you might not know is a lot of people from up north, they're moving down this way. And if you're from New York City and you got a lot of influence, you come down to Jacksonville, you're going to find a way to get some things done you'll like it. So I expect to see those kind of things start to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. But this place, if you can't get a job in Jacksonville, you don't want one. Like I say, there's a lot of ways to make a little side money out here. Hidden economies everywhere. Money is changing hands. Food vendors, trinket vendors, you name it. People make big money doing these football games. But right now the Jaguars, they hadn't scored. I didn't catch any reports of scoring in the second half. But right now the scores that I got was 7-3 Jacksonville. They have the ball, they're controlling the clock. They keep calling ETN's name, so that lets me know that they're running the football. What they're doing, what all bad football teams should do, try to run the ball, control the clock, hit a few timely passes and score, then you can pull some upsets. Keep that other team on the sideline, especially Justin Jefferson, because you know how dangerous he is. You don't want him getting loose, and especially in the NFL. A lot of the games are decided in the last 3 minutes anyway. So if the Vikings are anywhere close in the last 3 minutes, they're going to come back and win this game. And that's what's been happening in Jacksonville all year long. But like I say, the biggest thing with Jacksonville is Trevor Lawrence. He got that big contract extension, but he hasn't lived up to it. I wonder if he's actually pressing, trying to make people think that, yeah, I really do deserve this money. And by pressing, he's not performing like he should. You take the Texans game they played a couple weeks ago, he's got 2 or 3 guys running wide open. He's seeing the field, but he's not completing the pass. They completed just one of those passes, they beat the Texans. A couple other games, when they played the Eagles last week, he throws the end zone, interception in the end zone, that cost him the game. That was a bad throw. It was a bad read. He still had plenty of time. There was no reason to force it into the end zone. But this is the kind of thing that have gotten the Jaguars beaten all year. So they've been calling for Mac Jones, the fans have, and today they get their wish. Right now they're in the games. They're moving the football, and they got a lead. So let's see if that holds up. But back to college. Somebody tell me, what do you think is going to shake out with the SEC and the Big Ten? In the Big Ten, I think it's going to be Oregon playing Indiana. And I'm still on Texas. I think Texas is going to be the lone team to come out with 1 loss. And they're going to end up taking on the winner of that 2-team loss log jam. The way Alabama whipped LSU last night, if they play like that, they can play with anybody. So, I don't know if Texas want to play Alabama. I know they want to play Georgia because they got a lot to prove. But I don't think Georgia's going to be. I think Alabama has a good shot to be there if there's 2 losses for that second team. They got the tiebreaker over Georgia. And I don't think they played Mississippi. But I think they might have played a little bit tougher schedule than Mississippi. So I'm interested to see how the SEC's tiebreaker is. I got to go and research that. But Texas, I picked them to win the conference all along. They dissected Florida yesterday, and that's not really saying a whole lot because Florida's all banged up. They were down 3 starting secondary guys yesterday, and they on their 3rd string quarterback. So they're having trouble moving the ball. And with a high-scoring team like Texas, really hope that they would keep up, especially when they start making mistakes like they did. And once they got behind 14-0 and they went to 21-0, things just got out of hand. So, but the puzzling thing about Florida to me, the AD came out during the week and said they're going to bring back Billy Napier. I, along with other people, was sure that Napier was going to be gone after this season. He's a scapegoat. He's the head coach. He's making about what, $6-7 million. He's making enough money that he doesn't really have any excuse. So I thought he was going to be gone, but apparently they don't feel the same over there at AD. I think the reason for that is the last couple coaches they had over there in Gainesville, they got rid of, with money still on their contract. Dan Mullen was the last one, and I know they had to pay Michael Wayne. And I believe there was a coach between Michael Wayne and Dan Mullen. So they might be on the hook for 3 coaches that's not on the sideline anymore. So it wouldn't make sense to add another one. But I do think if Napier does come back, and credit to him because those teams, they do play hard. They had Georgia beat last week, and they started doing things that got them beat previously. They started turning the ball over at the wrong time, and you can't do that against Georgia. Because Georgia is a second half team, and they got a lot of heart. And that proved to be the difference last week against Florida. But the Gators, they got to find a quarterback, and they got to be more consistent. They can't get off to a slow start. If they do, that's going to be the end of Napier in Gainesville. But the other coach that has a problem in Gainesville, the basketball coach, what's his name, Todd Golden, he's been accused of harassing students on campus. The 2 women reported him, and there's a Title IX investigation on the book, and because of that, the school can't come out and say anything about it until the investigation is complete. But if what they're saying is true, you can pretty much think that Mr. Golden, he won't finish the basketball season because there was some very serious allegations, and it doesn't look good on the university. And I think they're going to make a pretty rapid exit of Mr. Golden. Like I said, that's found to be true. It was reported by the Alligator newspaper. I believe that's an independent student paper in Gainesville. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's the Alligator that broke the story. And they have the 2 women who say they have proof that the coach was doing this. And not only was he doing it, he was escalating. He started off one way and then just started picking up, and he just wouldn't stop. He just kept going and going and going. But what I can't understand, well, why would a coach in a high-profile position like that put himself in that position? It don't make sense. And he's got a big problem, and he better hurry up and prove I lost my microphone. I don't know how long that's been like that. All right, stand by a second. Way up here. All right. I'm trying to find my microphone here. I lost it. Okay. I found enough of it, but still in a bad spot. Like I was saying, if he's proven to be found guilty, then he's going to have a rapid exit out of Gainesville. And with the way the football team is going, that is not a good look for the school. And they're going to try to rectify that as quick as possible. So keep an eye out on that over there in Gainesville. All right, again, this is Sports for Real. I'm out here at the Jaguars Stadium. They're taking on the Vikings inside. And last score I got was 7-3. Jaguars got an interception early in the third quarter, and they just gave it back to them. So the Vikings are trying to take the lead now. They're down 7-3. The way the game is moving, it has to be close to the end of the third quarter. I'm not close to a clock right now, so I don't know. But I am aware of that the Vikings do have the football after getting an interception. So they can't blame that one on Trevor Lawrence. Let's see if anybody's talking to me today. Got a solid 50 pixels by Rex the Skunk. And Anderson Vieira says mono oak e iso. I have no idea what that means, but you know, a lot of guys hide behind this social media and they just say anything because they feel like nobody can do anything to them. But you know, it's coward stuff to me. I try not to respond. I really don't know what that says, but not really concerned about it. But you can see some fans, they like to leave the stadium early. I don't know. I guess they call themselves beating the crowd. But it's not that much of a crowd today. I imagine you get to your car by 4:20, and you can be clear of the traffic in about 10 minutes. So never really a traffic problem here unless you're in something like a playoff game or Georgia, Florida, or something like that. Not really a big traffic problem down here. But with the money that these fans pay, I'm staying for every single solitary second on that clock before I leave. It don't make sense. I talked to a guy who went to the first game of the season, and he told me that he went to the first game with his wife. They spent $400 between them. That's an awful lot of money for one football game. And in this stadium here, in August, it's very hot. August, September, that first game is usually blazing. People be passing out in the stadium, and in the concourse, there'd be a lot of paramedics tending to people. So when they get this new stadium, you know, if you think of the old Texas Stadium where the fans were underneath the covering and the field was out in the open, same kind of thing here. So they're gonna have like this lip over the stadium that's gonna surround the sides. So when the heat comes down, it's gonna filter through and cool it down underneath about 20 degrees. So if it's 90 degrees outside, it's going to cool it down to about 75, anywhere from 70 to 75. That would make a big difference as far as people passing out. And matter of fact, the last game, this is the fourth home game for the Jaguars, and they had a hot day last time. But the other three was just like this, overcast and spotty rain. And while that was going on last week, a lot of the Packer fans were complaining about the heat. One guy was saying that they should have put a cover on this place. Well, they're not going to put a cover, but they are going to put a cool down cover that's going to help out tremendously. And I'm really interested in seeing what this new stadium is going to look like. But we won't see that until the end of 2027. And like I say, the Florida-Georgia game is going to go to Atlanta in 26. Tampa in 27 before coming back here in 28. They also ended here in 25. So next year is going to be the last year for Florida, Georgia, and in Jacksonville for a couple of years. And the only thing that can really ruin that party is a torrential downpour. And that's only happened a few times that I've seen. And even then, that won't stop people from being out here trying to party. So, but yes. Made me think of that LSU-Alabama game last night. Oh, Miro is a great runner of the football. As well as Alabama played last night. They cannot depend on... Put your phone down and drive. They cannot depend on Miro to run the football if they're going to advance through the playoffs. At some point, he's going to have to stand in there and throw the football. And there have been times over his career at Alabama when he had to throw the football, and he hasn't done so well. And he hit a few passes last night, and LSU, for whatever reason, they couldn't stop the quarterback from running the ball. He just gashing him, you know. I know that extra runner is dangerous out of the quarterback position, but you got to keep them in the pocket. They kept letting them get outside. You know, their running game wasn't that strong that they had to abandon the quarterback coming around the edge, and that seemed to happen over and over and over again. So what they would do when they thought he was jumping outside, he'd cut inside him because they over pursued, and then kill him that way. So LSU, I know the fans aren't happy. They weren't happy with Kelly when they hired him, so they want to make him scapegoat. And just another thing about Kelly, if you've been watching LSU football, you see Kelly aging slowly. He doesn't look like the same Kelly he did when he first took that job. He's got all kind of wrinkles on his face now. He's dealing with a lot of stress. He's making like $8 million a year, and the fans, every mistake he makes, they let him know about it. And you can just see it on his face. But he's a good coach. I always thought he was a good coach, and right now they're just a couple players short of reaching that next level. But you know how the SEC is. They can turn on a dime. He can be middle of the road this year and come back and be the top next year. Take Texas A&M, for instance. Texas A&M was not expected to do what they're doing. They just got rid of their coach and bring in a new coach. You don't expect a new coach to be at the top in his first year. He has to build. Well, sometimes it works out that way. And Echo is doing a good job. I don't think he's going to come back next year and do the same job, because we're going to be waiting on him next year. But he has the opportunity to get that team to the conference championship game. And only thing that really stands in their way, as far as I'm concerned, is Texas. And you know the contentious relationship between those two schools. Texas tried to renew the series last year and the year before, but A&M said no. They want to have nothing to do with Texas. And even though they were pretty much forced to play them now, where they used to play on Thanksgiving weekend or the Thanksgiving night, A&M say no, we put this on a traditional Saturday. They don't even view that rivalry the same anymore. They try to get away from Texas by coming to the SEC. And when they look up, who's following them? Texas. That's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be an interesting environment. And last night you saw the fans at LSU throwing bottles on the field. I think you're going to see that trend continue. It's kind of classless, but monkey see, monkey do. When one team does it, somebody else is going to do the same thing. And we saw it last night with LSU Alabama. You're going to see it again down the road. All right, let's see what we got going on here. I'm not sure what quarter we're in. We should be close to the end of the third quarter. Jaguars are up 7-3. There's been no scoring in the second half so far. It has to be close to the end of the third quarter. The game has actually been moving pretty quick. And that's to the Jaguars' advantage, because they're not very productive on offense. You blame it on Trevor Lawrence, but he is not playing today, so you can't blame what happens today on Lawrence. So it looks like, according to his wife, that he's not going to be playing anymore this season. Just like Dak Prescott. He got a hamstring injury. He got a contract extension. He's not playing the rest of the year. He's talking about doing surgery and be done for the year. Well, that just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You're still a human. If you get hurt, you can't play. And it don't matter how much you make. Dak Prescott, now you got Trevor Lawrence, and it's going to keep on happening. Now let's see what's going on with the Jaguars. But again, I just want to talk a little college football, waste a little time. I got Fango Media coming up immediately after the game, so I got to get myself on post for that. So having a little fun down here, enjoying myself, talking to whoever might be listening. This is fun to me. Talk a little football. I wish you guys would send me some comments every now and then. I get a few, but I haven't had any in a while. So let me know what you think about what's going on with this college football and how do you feel about it. You got the championship games coming up in less than a month. As the season winds to a close, the games get more and more important. And it's not like these teams are going to be skating through playing against weaker opponents. There's some very good competition coming up. And if you think that the regular season is something, wait till the playoffs start. Probably going to have you some rematches. There's going to be some games that going to be more upsets, just like yesterday. And some of the teams that you think can't do anything will be the team that be most dangerous because they're going to be healthy. I don't know how Colorado will match up with some of these teams in the SEC, but they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. And that defensive line is getting off that football. So that lets me believe that Warren Sapp is doing a great job coaching that defensive line. I think it's something to be said about if you got a bunch of pro coaches coaching on the college level. Now, college coaches are good, but when you have to draw up stuff against the best of the best all the time, you're better prepared to coach than a typical college coach. A college coach can get a good program, build his program, win 9, 10 games a year, and be good. But when he gets tested, he may not have that extra edge that somebody who has NFL experience will carry. So that's what Colorado has. They got that pro coaching experience. They got that pro playing experience. They got people on the fringe that can help them out in other ways. So if Colorado can get into the playoffs and stay healthy and play a game where they're not making a whole lot of mistakes, how far can Colorado go? Now, Deion has been the talk of last year. A lot of people don't agree with his ways, but he's doing what he thought that he needed to do to build his program, to turn that program around. Because of what he's been doing. Now, because of that, a lot of people think that he's going to leave Colorado and go somewhere else. Looks like that Florida State will part ways with Mike Norvell. It'd be a surprise if they don't, because they usually about changing coaching. And if they do change, a lot of people think that Deion, he will bring not only his pro staff, he will bring his who has another year eligibility. I'm not sure how, because I don't know how he got an extra year. And as far as I know, COVID. I don't know if he got an extra year because of that. But Cam Rising, the quarterback, he's in his 6th year. The quarterback in Indiana is in his 6th year. That's the NCAA has made changes to give people 5 or 6 years that I don't know about. I don't see how Sanders could be eligible. But he's a junior. And that means he can come back. So if Deion could go to Florida State, he can get his. And not only that, he might be able to convince Travis Hunter to come with him. If you recall, Travis Hunter was the original signee of Florida State. He was going to go to Florida State. So wouldn't it be ironic if Travis Hunter came to Tallahassee with John and Sidor to make a run at turning Florida State program around? It's not a problem getting transfers, especially at Florida State. They got good transfers this year. They just don't match well as a team. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have the chemistry is just not there with the group that they have. You can come back next year with a different group of transfers and do a whole lot better than what they're doing right now. So it would be interesting to see if Deion would take that job at Florida State. But I contend, like I've been contending since he went to Jackson State, I think the only reason that Deion is coaching is for his sons. Once his sons are gone, then I don't see him hanging around college football. What is it for him to gain? He's done everything. He's got minor health problems. I don't know if he's gotten over that or not, but he had some health problems over the last couple of years. It's just like he may want to spend his last 20 years he has doing what he wants to do. I just don't see him coaching college football for a long time. But I could be wrong. But it'd be interesting to see exactly what he does. But it would be interesting. And by the way, his name was tossed around coming to Florida. But I never see him coming to Florida. That would never work. Deion coming to Gainesville to coach the Gators. But you got to remember, he wanted to coach Florida State before. They turned him down. When they turned him down, or if you turn me down, I don't want to work for you no more. And I suspect that Deion's probably the same kind of dude. He want to do it his own way. And at Colorado, they allowed him to do it his own way. So why would you leave to go somewhere where you got these real extreme expectations when you don't have that where you are now? You're doing your own thing, you're building your program, and one false move or something goes wrong in Tallahassee, or they tell him he can't do what he wants to do, he might be out in a year anyway. So if you're Florida State, would you take that chance? I wouldn't. But like I say, I think Florida State can kick it, because if he stays anywhere, it would make solid sense for him to stay at Colorado. But I think he's gone. I think he's through with all of it. He may become an NFL consultant wherever his son goes, and that's what he's going to be doing. That's what I see happening there. For Colorado, they're doing well right now. They're 7-2. They're in second place in the Big 12 right now. They control their own destiny to get to the conference championship game. They got to get by Utah this week, who's going to be hopping mad after losing the way that they lost to BYU. Then they have Kansas, who was supposed to be a pretty good team coming in, but they started out slow. Now they're starting to put it together. And then finally you have Oklahoma State. Gundy's not doing so well this year, but he's done well at Oklahoma State. A lot of people are thinking that he's not going to be there much longer. So I think it's still respected by his players. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if it was his last game, that the players are going to come out and give it their all to send him out on a good note. That's what I think. All right. Again, Minnesota's got the football. I haven't heard anybody scoring in the second half. As far as I know, the Jaguars are still up 7-3. That was the end of the third quarter. So he's going to give me the score now, and I'll let you know. Got a couple cops here. Not a whole lot of traffic on the streets. Not a real big crowd today from what I can see. I'm outside Gate 3 of Everbank Stadium at the corner of Duval, Haynes, and Gator Bowl. Triumvirate. And this is the main intersection for the traffic. You know, you can go in several different ways here. Like I say, during Florida Georgia weekend, this place here is choked. You can't move around like you can now. Here it's kind of like a high school game. Not a whole lot of traffic in high school football down here in Florida. Now you go to Georgia, some places you can't get to where you need to. Now it's just like a high school game in Florida, the traffic they're dealing with. And no backup whatsoever. But they are in the third quarter, and the football fans that Jaguar fans are, they come screaming out of here with about 5-6 minutes left. Even though the game is still in doubt, they don't care. They just want to get home, get out of the rain, and go home and tell their friends tomorrow when they get to work that they went to the Jaguars game. They could care less about the outcome. Are they real fans? I have no idea. Don't like it to me though. But again, this is Sports for Real. I'm going to go with FanGo. I'm going to do my thing with FanGo, get all set up. I'm going to come back after that. A few fans as they come screaming out of the stadium. That should be pretty interesting as to what they have to say. I'm looking forward to it. So until then, this has been Sports for Real. Talking a little college football with the Jaguars in the backdrop. And should get pretty interesting in this fourth quarter. But I think the longer the Vikings hang around, which is kind of hard to say for a team that's 7-2, but if they're hanging around in the last couple of minutes, I expect them to beat the Jaguars. That's just the way it's been going this year. But that's just my take. But I'll be back in probably about 45 minutes for a wrap-up of the day's activity and maybe talk a little bit more college football. This is Sports for Real.